Stop for a moment. Hold your breath. Don't move. Listen carefully, because something is happening to you right now, and it is not ordinary, not random, not accidental. There is a shift in the air around you, a pull in the unseen, a weight pressing against your spirit, as if invisible hands are reaching for your attention. You can feel it in your chest, in the silent space behind your thoughts, in the quiet ache no one else knows you carry. This is not imagination. This is not coincidence. This is a divine interception. A voice has entered the atmosphere of your life, a voice older than time, a voice that remembers the day your soul was formed, a voice that has watched every step you've taken, every battle you survived, every wound you hid. That voice is speaking now, and it is speaking directly, personally, and urgently to you. There is something in your life that has crossed into a sacred place, something that has created a fracture between who you were meant to be and what you have been doing, something that has disturbed the very alignment of your spirit. The unseen realm has been stirred. The heavens have leaned close. And in this moment, you are standing on the edge of a revelation that will expose the truth about why your heart has felt heavy, why your peace has been fragile, why your nights have been louder than your days. Nothing about this moment is casual. Nothing about this message is soft. Something has been hurting the one who has carried you, and this is the moment where everything begins to turn. Before you go any further, you must do something intentional, something spiritual, something that signals to heaven that you are ready for change. In the comments, write your warmest wishes, what your heart aches for, what your soul longs for, and add 7, 7, 7 beside it as a code of alignment, a declaration that you are stepping into divine correction and divine healing. This is not a suggestion. This is a command for your destiny. Do it with honesty. Do it with urgency. And after you write it, like this video and subscribe, not as a habit, but as an act of obedience, a sign that you are shifting directions, a sign that you are choosing alignment over destruction, a sign that you are stepping away from what has been causing unseen pain. This moment matters. Do it now. There is a truth hidden beneath your daily life, beneath the mask you show the world, beneath the routines that keep you moving but never fully living. Deep in the core of your spirit, there has been a misalignment, a fracture, a repeated pattern that has been pulling you away from the very one who has been protecting you. You didn't notice when it started. You didn't realize how it grew. But in the invisible realm, every action, every thought, every compromise has echoed like a tremor through eternity. There are decisions you have made that have bruised your own soul. But more than that, they have grieved the one who designed your destiny. Not with anger, not with rejection, but with the pain of watching you drift into behaviors, cycles, relationships, and mindsets that have been slowly draining your light. You may think you've been strong enough to handle it. You may believe no one sees. But heaven has been watching the way your spirit has dimmed, the way your purity has cracked, the way your purpose has been delayed. And the truth is, every moment you've spent feeding what is destroying you has created a wound in the unseen connection between your soul and the one who loves you enough to intervene. That is why your heart has felt restless. That is why your peace has been unstable. Something in your life has been wounding the bond between you and the divine. And this message is the moment of confrontation. In the higher realms, there are records, spiritual blueprints, destiny codes, divine archives, and within them is the mapping of your life, the path you were meant to walk, the greatness you were meant to activate. But recently, your frequency has shifted. The radiance that once surrounded your spirit has been dimming, flickering like a flame starved of oxygen. Every time you returned to that habit, that behavior, that person, that thought pattern, your inner light experienced micro-fractures. In spiritual biology, these are called cellular distortions, tiny disruptions in the soul's energy that eventually alter the shape of purpose. Heaven calls this a grieving frequency. It is the echo of a spirit moving away from its source. The angels assigned to your life have been watching, waiting, stepping in where they could, but some doors you opened invited forces that feed on your exhaustion, your guilt, your numbness. You didn't know that what you were doing was sending shockwaves through the unseen realm. You didn't know that each compromise was rewriting the rhythm of your destiny. But now the truth is being revealed. Your actions have been causing a silent pain in the heart of the one who has been shielding you since birth. There is a system in the spirit called divine rewiring. It happens when the soul has drifted too far from its original code, when the heart has absorbed too much chaos, when the mind has been saturated with voices that do not belong to heaven. Right now, you are entering that system. You are being pulled into a moment of reconstruction. The very cells of your spiritual identity are opening, exposing the damage, exposing the fractures, exposing the unseen scars. And as it was spoken to the prophets, when truth is revealed, transformation begins. Your soul is being prepared for surgery, not physical surgery, but a supernatural operation where angels work in realms beyond flesh, repairing what has been broken, removing what has been poisoning you, realigning what has been twisting your purpose. The pain you've felt lately, the heaviness, the numbness, the emptiness, was the signal that heaven was stepping in. You were not being abandoned. You were being awakened. In the realm of Eden memory awakening, there is a moment where the soul remembers what it was created for. A moment where destiny breaks through the fog. A moment where the heart recognizes that it has been living beneath its calling. You are in that moment. You were not designed for self-destruction. You were not created to live in cycles that drain your spirit. You were formed for purity, purpose, clarity, and divine intimacy. Every time you've stepped away from that, heaven has felt a pull, a tear, a grief, not because you were hated, but because you were loved too deeply to be allowed to waste away. The one who formed you has been whispering, calling, waiting, watching you return again and again to the very things that have been hurting your soul. And each time, there was a quiet sorrow, a silent ache. You didn't know it. You couldn't feel it. But the divine connection between you and your Creator has been carrying the weight of your choices. There are forces in the unseen, shadows that wait for moments of weakness, entities that thrive on spiritual disconnection. Every time you stepped into what you knew was not right for your spirit, you opened a microscopic fracture in your energetic shield. Those fractures allowed whispers of doubt, shame, and guilt to enter. They made you feel tired, unworthy, distant, disconnected from the light that once guided you. And in those moments, heaven was not angry. It was grieving, because the love that was meant to flow freely between you and the divine became constricted, blocked by actions that were never meant to live inside you. This is not about punishment. This is not about condemnation. This is about a divine heartbrokenness over watching you slowly harm yourself without realizing the spiritual cost. There was a time when your spirit was bright, when your joy was pure, when your thoughts were clean, when your heart felt close to the presence that created you. But somewhere along the way, a shift happened. A temptation, a distraction, a slow drift into behaviors that numbed you. It didn't feel dangerous at first. It felt harmless, small, manageable. But in the spiritual realm, every small step away from your purpose creates a ripple that grows and grows until it becomes a storm. Heaven watched as that storm formed around you, watched as your soul became tangled in patterns that were draining your purity. And with every step deeper, there was a silent ache in the one who loves you, a sorrow that you could not hear, a pain that you could not see. Yet even in your drift, even in your mistakes, you were protected. There were accidents that never happened, breakdowns that never reached you, attacks that never made it through your shield, because despite the pain your actions caused, the divine presence never stopped guarding you. But protection cannot replace connection. Survival cannot replace destiny. And now, the heavens are speaking, because something must change. You cannot continue feeding what is destroying your soul. You cannot continue nurturing what is killing your spirit. You cannot continue walking a path that leaves wounds in the divine bond that was meant to be your lifeline. This is the moment of intervention. In the unseen realm, alarms have been sounding. Angelic forces have been summoned. A recalibration has begun. Your spiritual DNA is being examined, scanned, analyzed by the intelligence of heaven. The distortions caused by your recent actions have been identified, and the process of healing has already started. You may feel it as restlessness. You may feel it as conviction. You may feel it as a strange emotional pressure, like something inside you is being pulled back into alignment. That is divine rewiring. That is spiritual surgery. That is the restoration of a connection that has been wounded by choices that felt small, but carried spiritual weight. There is a testimony written into your future, a transformation waiting to unfold. Someone like you once drifted far from their purpose, sinking into cycles that drained their soul. They didn't know they were causing pain in the heart of the divine. They didn't know their actions were dimming their spiritual frequency. But when they reached this moment, when they heard a message like this, something cracked open inside them. They felt the gravity of their choices. They felt the sorrow of heaven. And in that moment of revelation, their entire life shifted. Their mind cleared. Their habits changed. Their relationships transformed. They became someone new, restored, purified, realigned. And now, their life is a lighthouse for others drowning in the same darkness. That testimony is a blueprint of what is possible for you. Right now, angels are moving, not with judgment, but with healing. They are entering the chambers of your spirit, performing unseen operations, removing toxic frequencies, repairing fractures in your energetic shield. This is cellular reconstruction, where the deepest layers of your identity are being restored to their original design. This is frequency alignment, where your spirit is being tuned back to the sound of heaven. This is Eden memory awakening, where your soul remembers purity, purpose, and divine intimacy. And as this process happens, the sorrow that has existed in the unseen realm begins to lift. The grief of heaven begins to turn into hope, because your shift has begun. You have been living in a tension between who you are pretending to be and who you were born to be. That tension has been hurting you. But more than that, it has been hurting the one who loves you beyond comprehension. Every moment you choose what destroys you, heaven feels the weight. But now, the direction is changing. You are stepping into a moment where the divine bond begins to heal, where the fracture begins to close, where the sorrow begins to dissolve into restoration. You were not created to live in cycles of self-inflicted pain. You were created to walk in alignment, intimacy, and purpose. And heaven will not let you fade. More is coming, much more, and the truth will only grow stronger from here. The ground beneath your spirit trembles, as if an unseen curtain is being torn open. And in a single cinematic instant, it feels like the entire universe has leaned toward you, holding its breath, waiting to see what you will do next. It is as though the sky has gone silent, the wind has paused, and every angel assigned to your life has turned their gaze toward this exact moment. You may not hear it with your ears, but your soul can feel it. The pressure, the shift, the undeniable pull of destiny calling you out of everything that has been draining your light. This moment is not gentle. It is not small. It is not casual. It is a collision between where you've been and who you were always meant to become. Something in the unseen realm has declared that the damage must stop, that the wound must close, that the cycle must break. And now the spotlight of heaven is on you, not to expose you in shame, but to extract you from the very forces that have been slowly suffocating your spirit. You can feel the gravity of it, the weight of the divine intervention pressing through the atmosphere, demanding change, demanding awakening, demanding a return to the purity, clarity, and purpose that was written into your existence before you ever took your first breath. There is a hidden science in the spirit, a supernatural biology where every choice imprints itself into the fabric of your destiny. When you drifted into patterns that fractured your soul, the architecture of your inner world began to distort. Neural pathways of negativity formed. Emotional circuits became overloaded. The frequency of your spirit fell out of alignment. In the unseen laboratories of heaven, it was recorded as an energetic injury, a wound in the bond between the Creator and the created. And with every repetition of that damaging cycle, the injury deepened. What you thought was just a habit, a distraction, a coping mechanism, was actually rewriting your destiny code. It was altering the magnetic field around your life. It was shifting you further from the alignment that once protected you, guided you, and nourished you. The sorrow you couldn't identify, the numbness that crept into your heart, the emptiness that followed even your happiest moments. They were all symptoms of a deeper spiritual fracture. The one who formed you felt every ripple of that fracture, not with anger, but with heartbreak, a heartbreak that echoed through realms you cannot see. That is why your peace vanished. That is why your joy dimmed. The connection that was meant to flow like living light between heaven and your soul became tangled, strained, and wounded by actions that were never meant to live inside you. But in the highest chamber of the divine, something changed. A decree was issued. A restoration was ordered. The angels assigned to your life stepped into an emergency protocol known as timeline correction, where heaven intervenes to pull a life back from the brink of self-destruction. You have been feeling it, an unexplainable conviction, a pressure in your spirit, a strange emotional intensity that makes you restless, reflective, uncomfortable with what once felt normal. That sensation is not random. It is the beginning of divine reconstruction. It is the sound of heaven refusing to lose you. Angels have been dispatched into the inner architecture of your soul, working at a molecular level of spirit, repairing micro-tears in your emotional DNA, sealing breaches in your energetic shield, cleansing frequencies that have been poisoning your purpose. This is not poetic. This is literal in the unseen realm. They are performing spiritual surgery, delicately extracting attachments, habits, and influences that have been feeding on your weakness. They are rewiring the circuits of your identity, restoring clarity, renewing desire for purity, reigniting the hunger for destiny that you thought you had lost forever. The spirit within you is being recalibrated to its original blueprint, the one written before pain shaped you, before trauma trained you, before darkness tried to claim you. There is something else happening too, something rare, something sacred. You are entering a process known as Eden Memory Awakening, where the deepest part of your soul remembers what it was created for. You may feel flashes of longing, sudden bursts of emotion, moments where you sense there was once a version of you who was whole, clean, hopeful, radiant. That sensation is not nostalgia. It is prophetic memory. Your spirit is remembering its origin, its purity, its purpose, its divine intimacy with the one who formed it. And as that memory surfaces, the fracture begins to heal. The sorrow in the unseen realm begins to lift. The pain that heaven carried begins to dissolve. Because the moment a soul chooses alignment, the heart of the divine begins to rejoice. You are stepping into a reversal, a rewriting, a redemption that will transform the trajectory of your life. The cycles that once held you will lose their grip. The habits that once controlled you will crumble. The desires that once pulled you into darkness will evaporate as your frequency rises back into harmony with heaven. This is not self-improvement. This is divine resurrection. You may not realize it, but your life has been under surveillance by both light and shadow. Forces of darkness waited for you to grow tired, to grow numb, to grow disconnected, because disconnection weakens the shield that protects your destiny. They whispered that no one cared, that your actions didn't matter, that your pain was invisible. They tried to convince you that you were alone. But even when you drifted, even when you repeated the cycle, even when you fed what was killing you, heaven never abandoned you. There were battles you never saw. There were attacks that never reached you. There were traps that were dismantled before you ever stepped near them. The sorrow in the unseen realm was not because you were hated. It was because you were loved too fiercely to be lost. And now, the war over your soul is shifting. The darkness that fed on your misalignment has begun to starve. Its access is being shut down. The gates it once used to infiltrate your emotions are being sealed by angels. The fog that once clouded your judgment is clearing. The numbness that once muted your spirit is breaking. A spiritual detox is underway, flushing out the residue of every damaging choice, purging the toxins of guilt, shame, and self-sabotage. You may feel waves of emotion, sudden clarity, tears you didn't expect. That is the cleansing. That is the purification. That is the healing of a wound that went deeper than you ever understood. Someone once stood where you stand, lost, disconnected, repeating the same damaging patterns without realizing the spiritual cost. Their actions once caused grief in the unseen realm, not because they were wicked, but because they were wounded. But when truth found them, when their spirit was confronted by a message that pierced the fog, everything changed. They surrendered the patterns that were draining their soul. They let heaven heal what they could not fix. And in a matter of months, their entire life transformed. Their relationships healed. Their mind cleared. Doors opened that had been sealed for years. Opportunities appeared that defied logic. They walked into a new identity, free from the cycles that once held them captive. That testimony exists as a prophetic mirror for you, not to pressure you, but to show you what alignment makes possible. Because the destiny written for you is not fragile. It is fierce, it is powerful, it is expansive, but it cannot activate while you are harming the connection that fuels it. Right now, in real time, your spiritual DNA is being rewritten. The patterns of destruction are being extracted. The neural pathways of purpose are being ignited. You may notice your thoughts changing, your desires shifting, your spirit waking up. That is frequency alignment, the tuning of your soul back to the resonance of heaven. The sorrow that once echoed through the divine connection is being replaced with hope, anticipation, celebration. Heaven is not grieving anymore. Heaven is preparing. Because your transformation is not small, it is not cosmetic, it is foundational. You are stepping into a version of yourself that is healed, aligned, purified, and powerful. The cycles that once drained you will become distant memories. The habits that once controlled you will lose their voice. The people and environments that once pulled you downward will no longer feel magnetic. You are rising into a new atmosphere, a new identity, a new destiny. This is your turning point. This is your awakening. This is the moment where the pain that once echoed through the unseen realm becomes the catalyst for your greatest becoming. The healing has begun. The restoration is in motion. The divine connection is being repaired. And from this moment forward, the trajectory of your life will shift. You will feel lighter. You will see clearer. You will walk differently. Because what was hurting the heart of heaven has ended. What was damaging your soul has been interrupted. And what was delaying your destiny has been dismantled. You are stepping into alignment. You are stepping into purity. You are stepping into purpose. The sorrow is over. The healing has begun. And heaven is finally at peace with the direction of your soul.